Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. DraftKings week 7 is here, and I've got a video going over the top running backs for this week. They're not running back rankings. This is our DFS NFL look at week 7 running backs. Now, I like to break this down a couple of ways. First of all, I like to identify the 5-box running backs. The 5 boxes that predict more fantasy success over a projection historically. Back-tested data are they playing at home? Are they favored? Do they project for over 20 touches? Are they involved in the passing game? And do they get enough inside the 5 carries? Those 5 boxes individually all project or help a player score more than their expected fantasy projection. That's what we're looking for, guys to overproduce. That does not mean that players that don't check all 5 boxes can't be good running backs. It does not mean that those are the only 5 that you can play. In fact, I'm going to talk about 3 other running backs that I think are in great spots this week that don't check off all 5 boxes. What it does is it gives us a look at these are probably going to be some of the better running backs on the week, as well as some of them are going to come in at low percentages. So those 5 boxes help you identify some players that are in really great spots that may come in at a lower percentage in tournaments. So those are the 5 boxes for everybody who has been asking, what are the 5 boxes? Can you remind me about the 5 boxes? That's them. So thank you for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, leave me a reply down below, text a friend that you haven't talked to in a while. Make sure that you call your parents, let them know that you're doing okay, and let's hit it.
He's a legend.
The Smith Gang Listener League is back for this week. We didn't fill it last week, so they made it smaller, but 3,000 entrants is still a lot of people. $30,000 in the prize pool, $10 entry fee with only 3 max. The link is going to be one in the description down below. If you click show more, if you're on mobile, scroll down a little bit where you see the title, push that on your phone, it'll drop down. There's a whole bunch of links. Or you can go to smizzle.tv/links. It'll have a link to it in there. Or you can just type into your browser smizzle.tv/league. It'll take you directly there every single week of the season. Those are all the ways to find the link. I can't make it any easier. Our first running back that is going to be on the list of 5-box running backs is Aaron Jones. Green Bay going up against Washington. Washington has been a bad defense this year, but they've been a pretty stingy defense against running backs. They've really struggled against opposing passing games, which is really weird, as good as their front 7 has been, but they've just been getting abused on the outside. Second most points to opposing wide receivers, first most DraftKings points allowed to opposing quarterbacks. People are just throwing the ball all over on Washington. But Aaron Jones is involved in the passing game, gets about 60-65% of the running back touches on this team. He's not going to be a guy who's going to carry it 20 times, but based on his usage and the fact that he is used around the goal line, we've seen 3 touchdown games from him over the past year, 2 years. In fact, only Derrick Henry has more 3 touchdown games than Aaron Jones over the last 20 to 25 games. Aaron Jones can win you any week by himself. And even though this is not a week where they project to be very efficient, Washington is probably going to be scrambling against Green Bay. Green Bay is a 9.5-point favorite in this one and playing at home. Total of 45.5 in this game. Great offensive environment for Aaron Jones. Second running back on the list. They priced him so nice last week. They increased his price by 10%, and it's still probably 15 or 20% too low. And that's before you consider the matchup with the Detroit Lions, who have allowed the second most fantasy points on DraftKings to opposing running backs. I believe that DARREL Henderson is going to be massive chalk once again this week in cash games. I think he will carry a number higher than 20% in tournaments just because he's really easy to get to. You want to leverage off of him? Fine. Play double stacks in the passing game, kind of like we did on the first look video. If you haven't checked that out, go check it out. And guess what? Cooper Kupp also very good. Henderson has gotten all of the volume in any game that he's been healthy. 80+% of the snaps in every game that he has started and finished without leaving the middle with health. That's 2 of them that he missed for that. One he missed completely a couple of weeks ago in week 3, and another one where he left early a little bit against Arizona, left in the middle of that game. His pass game usage fluctuates. But as good as this offense is, and as much as McVay runs the ball once they get inside the 10-yard line, we're always going to have touchdown upsides. One of the top 5 in the league in terms of inside the 5 usage. Rams are favored by 15.5 points with a total of 50. So if we cut that in half, let's just say 8.25, and we cut the 50 in half, that's 20, that's 25. You add those two together, an implied team total of 33 plus for the Los Angeles Rams is just absurd. A lot of touchdowns to go around, projectably, for the Rams offense, and Darrell Henderson is good at scoring touchdowns when being utilized, kind of like Todd Gurley was a few years ago in his heyday. Leonard Fournette, Uncle Lenny, is right back on the list again, and as long as he maintains this ridiculous usage that we've seen from him since week 4 against New England, 20 carries against New England with 5 targets. Against Miami, only 12 carries, 5 targets, and got a touchdown. Against Philadelphia, 22 carries, 6 targets, 2 touchdowns. As long as Leonard Fournette is the lead back that's going to get 65-70% of the snaps and share of the running back touches on Tampa Bay, an offense that projects to score 30 points every single week, playing at home, favored massively by 13 points over the Bears defense, Leonard Fournette's going to be in play. You have a massive floor based on his usage and targets, every target worth 2.8 carries in terms of expected fantasy value. And all of that touchdown upside that goes along with it the last 3 weeks since he wrested the starting role away completely from Rojo, and they just like, look, we're just going to roll out Fournette. Since that time, 16.9 DraftKings points, nice. 21 and 30.7 against Philadelphia. Now, the touchdowns are going to be variant. He's not always going to score one, but if you're telling me he's got a realistic median outcome based on his volume alone without touchdowns from 15 to 18 fantasy points any week, and then you add the touchdown expectation on top of that, 6.4 is just nowhere near enough. Now, Josh Jacobs may not carry as many people on him in a tournament, but they are favored. They are at home against the Eagles this week, who've allowed the 6th most DraftKings points to opposing running backs, and over the past 4 weeks have allowed the 3rd most DraftKings points. So that's a defense that's trending in the wrong direction, or at least for us, if we're looking to play Josh Jacobs, in the right direction. At home and favored, does project to get a good amount of the carries. Has not been very efficient this year. Most games averaging under 3.5 yards per carry, but this Philadelphia defense can be the cure to all that ails you in terms of efficiency for running backs. So Josh Jacobs in another really good spot this week. And our last 5-box running back on the week is Damien Harris. Now, we don't have a ton of inclusion in the pass game here, but at least there's some. And Damien Harris is doing something that not a lot of running backs on New England have done the past few years. And partially that's due to the injury situation that has to do with like James White and some other players around, that Damien Harris is the one guy to trust. He's been really good when handed the ball on the ground, but playing well over 60 to 65% of the snaps since James White went down. Historically, the past 6 or 7 years, no New England running back has played like over 38 to 39% of the snaps. So Harris getting so much of the usage here in this spot. I also expect his targets to go from like 1 in the past 2 games to somewhere around 2 to 3 per game moving forward for the rest of the year, if he's on the field as much as he is, with Mac Jones checking down as much as he has, being a very low ADOT thrower. Damien Harris could see a few more targets going his way, as well as all of the inside the 5 work and the vast majority of the carries, and 5,700 is pretty cheap. Now, 3 guys that I think are definitely in play. Oh, look, there's Derrick Henry. He's really good. He touches the ball a whole lot. They are using him in the pass game, except for week 5 against Jacksonville, because they were up 1 million points already. Like, there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to encapsulate that you probably need to hear. But guys, guess what? Derrick Henry's really good. And the Chiefs defense has not been very good. They've allowed the 9th most DraftKings points to opposing running backs, but in the last 4 weeks, they've allowed the 19th most DraftKings points to opposing running backs. So they would be trending in the wrong direction for us in terms of matchup. But does that even matter with Derrick Henry and this Titans offense? Like, it doesn't matter, right? The Bills were a really tough team against opposing running backs too, and he posted 22 touches for 143, including 3 touchdowns and a 76 one where he ran away from that Bills defense. So like, matchup proof in terms of his ability to break down tough defenses, volume proof, especially when playing at home in Nashville. Great spot once again for Derrick Henry in, I believe, the highest total game on the slate this game. Chiefs are favored in this one. Titans playing at home by 4.5. The total here is 56. DeAndre Swift. Can I just say DeAndre Swift? Because I think that rolls off the tongue a little. DeAndre Swift. does not get you 20 touches, but game flow independent running back. If the Lions ever happen to win a game, and I do not expect the Lions to win a game this week, 6,000 for DeAndre Swift seems somewhat criminal, right? We have a really, really, really solid floor based on his constant use in the passing game, because that's what he does. He's not getting all the snaps because Jamal Williams is going to play like 45% and Swift's going to play like 55%. And Swift has been doing the work kind of in mop-up duty most weeks, considering that they're playing from behind, and then they wait until like mid to all of the way through the third quarter, and then they just start pinging Swift with a bunch of targets. And I do expect them to be playing from behind here. Hopefully this offense can score a couple touchdowns for a few reasons. One, it will keep the Rams offense on the field and having to keep the throttle down so that we can get a whole lot of points out of the Rams offense. And if they score touchdowns, a good bulk of those touchdowns are going to be scored by DeAndre Swift, both on the ground and possibly through the air, which he has, has done once in week 1 this year. But as much usage as he's getting in the passing game gives him a really high floor. Very little chance at a 100-yard bonus here unless he really breaks like an 80-yard catch. Can't really predict those. It's not really his forte on the ground. He does have breakaway speed, but I'm not going to go out of my way and say, yeah, he's going to bust a 65-yard touchdown this week. But that's what it would take for him to get the 100-yard bonus. But really good floor. Also touchdown upside. Hopefully they have to throw in the ball like 7, 8, 9 times this week, as they should be playing from behind in Los Angeles at SoFi. Darrel Williams also under 6K. There's been a lot of running backs each of the last like 3 weeks, all very cheap, which basically makes tournaments pretty easy if you go by our tournament building strategies of stack the quarterback with 2 of his guys, bring it back with 1 player. We can find running backs that are cheap enough to go after it. And Darrel Williams in a favorite situation against this Titans defense that has not been amazing. They just haven't. Most of the work that they're giving up is to passing games, but Darrel Williams against a Washington defense that, as I said, is going to make you less efficient. Only allowed 3.0 yards per game against him, but he played more snaps, or yards per rush, not yards per game. Played more snaps last week, over 80%, than CEH did in any one of CEH's starts. So in the absence of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Darrel Williams is going to get 80+% of the snaps with Jet McKinnon filling in just a little bit. Sub 6K for a team that's been to the red zone way more than any other team, has scored more red zone touchdowns on trips than any other team in the league. And you're telling me that he's going to be the main guy? Sign me up for under 6K. It's way too cheap for Darrel Williams this week. He should be pretty popular play, but as we said, with 8 running backs just in this video alone, and I'm sure that there'll be a couple others that pop up on this 10-game slate as we move towards kickoff on Sunday, only like 2 of them are going to be chalky. And we're going to find some gems, and hopefully this video has helped you. So if it did, drop a like, subscribe, ring the bell, and look out for another one right there.
He's a legend.